give it to you. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. Yeah, just how you like. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. Just how you like. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. Just how you like. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. We gon' give it to you. Just how you like it.
We gon' give it to you. Just how you like it. Universal meaning, love is how we'll fight it. And then we'll shine on wine with your friends. Remember the good times.
What's up, everybody? This is Jordan Chaos. We're in the southern Black Hills of South Dakota, here at the Wild Horse Sanctuary, and we're about to go on a tour. This is Roxandra, and she's going to show us what's going on out here.
Okay, well, welcome to Wide Open Space. And that's what this is here. This is 11,000 acres, 16 square miles of wide open space that's dedicated not to me, not to you, but to wild animals, specifically the wild horse.
Awesome.
And we're going to talk about why.
Awesome.
Wild horses were not in South Dakota in the past couple of decades. They were brought here. They were rescued basically from BLM government holding facilities that had tight prison-like conditions, and absolutely the horses that were rounded up like by helicopter, by truck, by horseback are like gelded, branded, and held indefinitely because the BLM doesn't want them roaming on public land, because the cattle lobbyists want the land to be leased to them for their cattle operations.
We want to go for a ride and check it out?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go.
Bye-bye. Ah! We're only about 30 miles from the border of Nebraska, and that's where the first horse fossil was found. Eohippus, like 50 million years ago. Some people say 30 million years ago. So,
Is that the movie set?
that's a movie set. The Cheyenne were here, the Lakota were here, countless Native American tribes have been here. There's remnants of prehistoric flint mines across the canyon there. I always think that they like to be on flat mesa areas where they could spend a lot of time looking down while they nap their flint and their arrowheads, and only be able to look up in a glance and kind of plot their surroundings. This was considered a sacred place by the Lakota, at least, because this is a place where the Cheyenne River flows in 4 different directions. It twists and turns. The Cheyenne River almost dried up this year. In some places you can see it's turned into disconnected puddles. If it dries up, we have to bring in water, so they wrote a grant for a fire engine to pump water for the horses if we need to. But it looks like fall's coming, and we might make it through. If you're able to zoom in on the sand there's a million little tiny footprints from when the horses come down to drink. Horses are creatures of habit. They like to take the same path over and over and over again. It looks like motocross trails there, but those are horse trails from the wild side horses. They like to follow a lead mare, and she makes the decisions for the group: when to eat, when to drink, when to sleep, when to run. Following a path also keeps you away from snakes.
What kind of snakes are there?
Rattlesnakes and a million other kinds of snakes. Persons most likely to get bit by rattlesnakes are males between the ages of 18 to 24, usually under the influence of alcohol, attempting to handle the snake. I forgot to tell you, we're not supposed to be here unless you have like a tribal card, because essentially this is an Indian reservation. Well, 140 years ago, the U.S. government gave this entire Black Hills from the southern end to the northern end to the Lakota Indians and said no, the treaty said, it was called the Treaty of Laramie, no white man or woman should ever enter the Pahasapa, or the Black Hills. But after the Civil War, you had all these generals and all these soldiers and all this military might that was still looking for something to do. And so they came out here to take care of the Indian problem, quote unquote. And Custer came out in an expedition, I think 1874, and reported that there was gold to the grassroots. In other words, you could pull up a plant and there'd be gold nuggets like all in the roots. And that caused a frenzy of really enterprising people to come in here, conflicts with the natives, and then cries for justice or cries for protection. And basically, probably, they say that the first phone lines in America were between Deadwood and Washington, D.C. So there was a big gold and Washington, D.C. thing going on. So they rounded all the Indians up and put them on reservations. Crazy Horse was the last group to surrender.
And that's what we're about to enter right here?
Enter what?
Are we already in the place we're not supposed to be?
The whole Black Hills we're not supposed to be in. My house I'm not supposed to be in. The Black Hills are not for sale. They belong to the Native Americans. But the government reneged on their treaty right, which is no newsflash. Oh.
You know what's hanging in the... You know what those colors mean?
Yeah, pretty much. I forget sometimes. Because they're a little bit different than what seems westernly intuitive. But those are colors for the four directions. That's called the Tree of Life. It's a cottonwood tree that's picked by a medicine man with the assistance of a virgin. But this is the Sundance site. The Lakotas have been coming here for hundreds of years doing the Sundance until it was homesteaded. And then they weren't allowed to for many generations. And now they've begun to do it again. Basically, you would sweat. This would be covered with buffalo hides. There's the rocks that are used, that are heated by the fire and brought into the Sundance. The sweat lodge. And constantly replaced. The wood would have been the sacred tree from the previous year's Sundance. I don't know very much about the Sundance procedure, but I've heard a few things. You purify yourself basically over the course of at least a year with a medicine man. You sweat. I don't know what the temperatures are. I've heard greater than 140 degrees. On the summer solstice, when the sun's highest, looking directly into the sun, you do a dance that's a prayer for your family. It's not supposed to be about you looking tough and bad. It's supposed to be about you making a sacrifice for your family. Like, here. A female. The greatest gift I could give to my brothers if they were going to war would be cut about 100 square-inch pieces off my skin and give them as a flesh offering, because they say there's nothing greater that you have to give than your own self. So there are ropes hanging from the Sundance tree, and your pectoral muscle or the skin here is grabbed and pierced. I've heard by different things, sticks, eagle bone, and tied to the tree in 4 places. So you're hooked onto the tree in 4 places. Everyone who's a spectator is in prayer in support of you, and to pray as a prayer for your family. You dance 4 times into the pole and 4 times out. The dance is pretty slow because by the 4th time, all 4 pegs need to be ripped from your chest.
Wow.
If you're a Native American medicine man of the Sundance, please forgive me if I've misrepresented. Please invite me to your next Sundance so I can watch and tell the true story, or not.
don't seem that big.
No, nature wants them to be small. Nature breeds a wild horse to be small and nervous. Studying a horse can only feel one emotion at a time, curiosity or fear. And they're very curious. And that's how we've come to coexist with them. Some of these horses are way wilder than others. Like he was born here. The University of Nebraska did a 10-year study on prairie dogs. They recorded the sounds they made in a controlled environment and hooked them up to computers and analyzed the correlations between the sounds and the events. And in that 10-year study, I don't know, they just kind of disappeared. I didn't find out what they've done lately. They found over 50 different words that the prairie dog speaks, including adjectives and adverbs. Like slow and quick, large and small, man and woman, different word for German Shepherd as for coyote. So they're actually starting to break down things into whole sentences like, here comes that harmless yellow man. And down here, we have a camp of a medicine man who comes to sweat. It's his own private spot. Nobody knows how long this was used for a shelter, but we do know that it was the cooking cave. It's got a natural chimney up and back. For the very first winter that the first homesteader families spent here. Maybe some marks that were sharpening weapons, some starbursts that were fertility symbols. It's weird how most petroglyphs, you probably know this, are in sandstone because it's easy to carve, but the sandstone erodes, and so actually most of the original drawings are about 8 feet deep in the sand at the base of them. And then the cowboys, when they stopped here on the way to Deadwood, and the ranch boys, when they were here for their first winter, liked to use this for target practice, so those are bullet holes in his head. So people express themselves layer upon layer here.
See a rabbit come out of here?
Yeah, he took off that way.
Out of there?
Fast as could be. Let's go get him.
That wastly wabbit. So there you have it, folks. The Wild Horse Sanctuary here in South Dakota, the Black Hills. It's a beautiful spot. We had a beautiful time. And thank you to our beautiful tour guide, Roxandra. She did a great job. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. We'll check you out next time on the Illumination.tv.